Legends foretell of a powerful beast in the wild. A 400-foot-tall reptilian who lurks beneath the ocean, terrorizing or befriending the Japanese population, based entirely on the will of the force of nature that stirs in his very core. Power exudes with every step that he takes, as the first sign of his presence is the ground quaking beneath his feet. Soon to follow is untold destruction as he slams his way through any and all obstacles. Few have managed to tussle with this behemoth and survive, and those that do don't escape without being scarred by his powerful atomic breath. That Goliath's name is Charles Barkley. Who else could it be? Rookie of the Year, 1993 NBA MVP award, an 11-time NBA All-Star, and fearsome owner of the well-deserved title of Sir Charles. His steps quake as he sprints in his signature Nikes, slamming and jamming both the ball in the hoop on the court and his blindingly shiny-headed smile in the blockbuster film Space Jam, and unleashing his atomic breath in his arguments on TNT with other intimidating kaiju such as Shaquille O'Neal. Those earthquaking sponsor shoes are more notorious than a 100 base power move that doesn't hit flying types. They were actually the subject of Barkley's second greatest achievement in his entire lifetime, starring in a Nike commercial in 1992 alongside some like big dumb lizard monster thing. Okay, Godzilla, sometimes pronounced Gojira? What? Is this thing? He's a big stupid alligator fucker, and no one's ever really heard of him, and he's got no cultural significance whatsoever, and he's absolutely not an allegory for any larger message in any capacity. This video seems to coincide with his 70th anniversary, which is not something at all I planned. Why would anybody care about this dumb fuck? Perhaps the only thing this cold-blooded cocksucker has ever achieved is getting me to ask my audience the question of, has this joke gotten boring yet? Because you know who the fuck Godzilla is. To reiterate beyond my twisting roller coaster of wit, in 1992, NBA superstar Charles Barkley starred in a Nike commercial featuring a supersized version of him battling Godzilla. Let's watch it for context, shall we?
Lakers are looking for a big man.
Now, forgive me for trying to translate double decades-long hype over here, but this commercial was extremely cool. I know that these days, the never-ending slot money machine cranks out crossovers every week to deprive you of your money in exchange for you feeling entirely unwanted pride over, oh, I like something that's extremely popular and not at all unique to like. Make sure everybody knows this. But this commercial was different, because people gave a shit about this commercial. It had heart. It wasn't just a commercial, it was an event. Originally, this commercial was made to specifically appeal to the Japanese market, with the marketable cultural touchstones being obvious. But Nike was so impressed by the final product, they decided to make this crossover a big deal. A really big deal. Godzilla vs. Barkley wasn't created in any old special effects studio. It was developed by world-famous George Lucas-owned Star Wars creating industrial light and magic, resulting in a slew of charming practical effects. There was a ton of effort that went into this thing, to the point where PBS aired a 15-minute behind-the-scenes special you can watch in horrific VHS tape quality that I'll link in the description. It would have been far simpler for this ad to just make a fully animated cartoon short, or film Barkley goofily doing something stupid on camera with a really cheap Godzilla costume with comedic effects, and you think that would be stupid, but he had already done that with other commercials.
Hey Mike, I got my own shoe!
my own initials on it.
But they actually went with a borderline faithful adaptation of Godzilla's trademark style, complete with aiming for a fully cinematic feel and becoming the first television commercial to ever use 3D audio to help the sound effects sound more impactful, which is a neat little detail I thought I'd include after I finished stealing details from the commercial's Wikipedia page. Oh, you were supposed to put your 3D glasses on, that part. Sorry I didn't warn you. Godzilla vs. Barkley even had a hype campaign that built up to it, including a trailer commercial leading up to the premiere.
It's the battle of the century, and it's coming soon. Get ready to see a real monster jam.
A commercial had a trailer that ran as a commercial. And the hype campaign didn't stop there. The commercial even ran alongside promotional merchandise like posters, hats, and t-shirts just like this one. This isn't a print or a remake or anything that I had done. This is an actual vintage t-shirt from that ad campaign that I got verified by a third party. At least I really hope it is, because if it's not, I'm out $250. And when I got it, it definitely smelled like 1992. It had a really retro funk on it, and I had to wash it, so there is now a 0% chance I'm getting my money back. This shit was awesome. All the right levels of camp and cool to make a perfect commercial, and people knew it. Even the nerds at the Cursed Commercials Wiki struggle hard to write about why this commercial is allegedly bad. Why it's cursed. The special effects are dated even for the period. Miniature buildings, Godzilla played by an actor in a rubber suit. Also, coming from someone like the world-famous Industrial Light and Magic, known for their groundbreaking innovations in the world of film special effects. Man, shut the fuck up. I'm so tired of everything and anything that's slightly offbeat or unusual or done with a little bit of actual care being called cursed and cringy. I'm telling you out there right now, if you didn't like watching this commercial, just unsubscribe from my channel because I fucking hate you. You make the planet more boring. But the culmination of all this excitement over a ploy to get people to buy sneakers from a company that could only pledge to end child labor policies 5 years after the fact was the granddaddy of all baffling, unnecessary, and so bad it's good marketing tie-ins. The Godzilla vs. Barkley comic book. That's right, this video is a comic book review. I fucking fooled you. You didn't think it was a comic book review, but it was a comic book review all along. Take that, you... Welp, it finally happened. I climbed the tallest mountain in the world. No, not Mount Everest, the other one that nobody knows about. And I came all the way up here to accomplish my second to-do list item of today, eating a delicious meal from Factor. Factor is the meal delivery service that may not be able to send your food to the highest point in the world, but they can definitely get it to your doorstep. Since I spend every waking second of my life achieving things that most people would ordinarily consider lifelong goals, I eat Factor to make sure every precious minute of my time is spent doing something incredible. Like eating Factor. Factor offers up to 35 fresh, never frozen meals a week, including keto, calorie-smart, vegan, and vegetarian options. So you'll be able to find a meal you like, regardless of if you're fighting off hypothermia, oxygen deprivation, or a pending legal sanction from the country of Nepal. Are you planning on going on a night raid to blow up a world-famous geographical wonder so no other person can experience it ever again? Well, don't worry, Factor also makes breakfasts, smoothies, and midnight snacks, so you can keep yourself satisfied as you concoct your incredible scheme of doing that and then building your own tallest mountain in the world and charging people a fee to see it. You stupid genius billionaire you. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50Huggbees to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50Huggbees at Factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factor, the only pre-made meal plan that understands that sometimes the best flavor enhancer is eating your food at 34,000 feet. I also bought the comic book, of course. It was only about 60 bucks from a collector's market, but sealed copies of this bad boy can go online for as much as $400 depending on condition, which really goes to show how much of a booming shout this event was in pop culture for the time and how stupid the grading market is. Watch. I don't care. It's paper. It's fuck it. Dark Horse Comics, one of the titans of the comic book publishing game responsible for Sin City, Hellboy, 300, and a slew of other classics, threw their shot into the ring of this historical rumble, printing a 35-page long one-shot story with about a third of those pages being ads. This may be a comic book about the throwdown between the King of the Monsters crowned and the round mound of the rebound, but it's also going to get you excited for Danger Unlimited, a comic that I don't think any human being cares about at all. But let's talk about the main event, Godzilla vs. Barkley. The comic book is pretty shitty, but in that, like, perfect encapsulation is so bad it's good kind of way. This comic isn't remotely going to be anything special in terms of quality, but you knew that going in. It's fucking Barkley versus Godzilla, not Shakespeare, because if it was Shakespeare, there'd be a lot more jokes about vaginas. Let's review this thing already. Most comic books start with a comic book cover, and boy fucking howdy is this one hell of a cover. This is one of those concepts that's just impossible to not have come out absolutely radical. I mean, check out this official promotional art that's on my t-shirt and some of the other merch. This picture is just so fucking awe-inspiring. I would say the blatant sexual energy of the piece makes it even better, as Barkley looks like he's mid-leg wrap to make sure Godzilla can't force the pullout game. But because Godzilla is a tsundere, his aggressive tendencies are betrayed by his tail wrap, which displays his true romance at heart. These two were made for each other, damn it, and while the resulting comic is unfortunately not a piece of pornography, the resulting clash will be orgasmic enough for my stupid shit to laugh at senses. Now normally I just go ahead and skip the inside credits page, but for this one I've got to point some things out. First of all, my age-old wisdom of you can never fuck up a picture of Godzilla and Barkley together checks out in this sketch art. This is from a moment later on in their saga where a bigger, more evil threat comes to Earth and Godzilla and Barkley just kind of look at each other and wordlessly nod, knowing that it's time to set aside their differences and kick some ass. It's either that or the local billionaire was just murdered and they're beginning to suspect one another of doing it for the inheritance. Point is, if you pair these two together, magic happens no matter what the fuck is going on. And more magic abounds as we read the credits themselves, because we have a plot written by world-famous author Alan Smithee. For the uninitiated, Alan Smithee is a pseudonym, meaning a fake name.
It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up.
Now, more specifically, Alan Smithee is a form of protest within a false identity. Creatives who go by the name Alan Smithee aren't just refusing to lend their name to a production, but are actively commenting that they think it fucking sucks. If we trace back the name to its roots in film directing, it's most often used when the anonymous director in question wants to comment on the lack of creative control or faith in the final product. And the fact that this is the name chosen by the scriptwriter of this crazy crossover means I'm like a kid in a candy store, because dissecting weird and awful plots means big bucks for my channel. Ooh, I'm excited. We start where every single Godzilla property is going to feature, whether you like it or not. The middle of the ocean on a boat where everyone can't shut up about Godzilla. The crew, presumably being Japanese based on their dialogue being surrounded by less than and greater than signs, meaning I think the comic book authors are subtly making an Asians are good at math stereotype joke, talk about how there's a storm where there shouldn't be a storm, and how Godzilla totally isn't real. They keep thinking he's not real for about 5 more seconds until their sonar starts going ballistic and something massive leaps out of the water. Ah, it's Gojira! And he's screaming Kree-onk, which immediately shows how slapped together and disheveled this comic is. The signature onomatopoeia of Godzilla in the comic books is Scree-onk with an S at the beginning. Even so, I think it's stupid as fuck and sounds more like the war cry of a Mad Max villain who fucks pigs, but it's got its charm, I suppose. I'm not alone in this, by the way. There's all sorts of debates on the internet of how he should be written in the comic books to sound. we do have a higher authority on the subject, thanks to the world-renowned scholars at Urban Dictionary. A term referring to the noise the giant monster Godzilla made in its Dark Horse comic series in the 1990s. It has become a popular exclamation and curse among fans of the series and certain fringes of geek culture. It is often used synonymously with the word fuck. Well, I guess I've got a new synonym in my linguistic wit. I guess it's a bit hard to properly spell out the Godzilla noise, but if you want to fill my comments with big dumb Godzilla-style onomatopoeia, I will gladly read them and kick my feet and giggle. Anywho, Godzilla kills a few dozen people and ruins a fresh shipment of the brand new 1993 Toyota Corolla because his big dumb lizard brain is too stupid to emerge in an unpopulated area of the gigantically vast ocean, and instead he chose a spot that would absolutely piss him off and make his trip to the surface for oxygen all the more of a hassle. Oh well, people died, who cares? It's off to the sunny boardwalk of undisclosed Californian beach, where little boy Matthew is dragging his grandpa along to help him catch a glimpse of Charles Barkley in person. Which is a bold gambit, because with how intense the California sun gets, glancing at Barkley's bald head may cause blindness. Matthew finds Barkley being coated in butter to help roast his chrome dome like a baked potato on the set of a beach film shoot. Matthew is promptly and correctly told to fuck off by security, not because he has no credentials related to the camera crew, but because I'm a big fan of disrespecting children's limited intelligence and informing them of how harsh and uncaring the real world is. A whole gaggle of people have shown up to bother Barkley with something he doesn't care about, including child card duelist Mike Tyson and me for some reason. But Matthew is tenacious, flat out refusing to stay back when told to by security, prompting a nearby cop to shuffle him along, the cop threatening to arrest him if he keeps causing trouble. Matthew fires back with snark, asking what the cop would even arrest him for, and well, the unfortunate fact is that based on skin tones of these characters, I would wager this cop has 100 bullshit reasons to throw you in the slammer, Matthew. So how'd it go? You get to talk to him?
Aw, they wouldn't let me near him, Gramps. They acted like I was John Hinckley or something.
I'm gonna assume this comic is referring to John Hinckley Jr., the man who tried to assassinate former President Ronald Reagan, and not John Hinckley Sr., his father, who, as far as I know, didn't try to assassinate former President Ronald Reagan. I actually did a video on Hinckley's assassination attempt, which got restricted to 18+ viewership only for being too funny, so I'm going to link that in the description for you. But long story short, Matthew is insinuating here that people will mistake him, a 10-year-old basketball fan, for a mentally ill Jodie Foster fanboy trying to shoot Charles Barkley to impress her. I get that the word shoot gets different connotations in the context of b-ball, but maybe lower your opinion of yourself a bit, Matthew. Matthew's grandfather feels bad that his grandson was rightfully told to go shut up somewhere else, so he gives him a trinket to cheer him up. A magic silver dollar that old grandpa was given to him by his old grandpa. The magic of the dollar begins working immediately, because Grandpa and Matthew stumble upon the most magical thing of all you can find on a Californian beach. A drowning victim who speaks in the cryptic language of new surf lingo. Don't worry, mister. An ambulance is on its way. Zilla. I'm not sure what a Zilla is, since I live in the real world, not distracted by nonsensical reptiles weighing more than a ton, but let's just say it's something involving pizza that would appeal to college dropouts. The shipwrecked man warns that Godzilla is coming, and Matthew is the only one who has heard of Godzilla amongst the crowd.
He's a monster. I guess he's the biggest monster of all time. They call him the king of the monsters.
What are you, king of the liars? Fucking burned. Put your hat on forwards, Matthew, so it actually blocks the sun instead of turning you into a blockheaded dumbass. Godzilla overhears that this guy is being a dick to the children, and knowing that he can finally fully eliminate Gamera as competition, decides to crash the party with a politely shortened skreunk. How in the blue fucking blazes did no one notice Godzilla until now? Godzilla's about 150 feet tall in his shortest incarnations, and you're telling me that he was able to get that close to the beach without anyone noticing? Even if he was submerged, I mean, come on now. I know you out there are stupider than me, but let's not suddenly get as stupid as the average Californian as depicted in this non-exaggerated real-life documentary comic book about the Eureka State. That really is California's slogan, by the way, which was the word that was promptly proclaimed when the people of Los Angeles finally discovered you're legally allowed to have conversations that are about things other than how much traffic is on the highway. Matthew, come on, get off the beach!
But Gramps, the magic silver dollar, I can use it to stop Godzilla.
Matthew, you aren't ready to take on Godzilla. Okay, yeah, this is pretty fucking awesome. A 164,000-ton byproduct of the Cretaceous period having sex with a nuclear power plant is barreling toward the coastline, ready to obliterate your grandson without even knowing that he's there, and the immense respect that you have for his hidden potential on par with Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 is to temper his strength with, "You aren't ready to take on Godzilla." Well, when will he be ready, Grandpa? When will he be ready? Because I'm not thinking his puberty growth is going to include an extra 200 feet of skeletal mass. But Matthew is still a kid. Meaning he's still an idiot, just an utterly unsalvageable dumb mind rattling around in his skull. So he thinks Charles Barkley might be the human equipped to defeat the King of Monsters. After all, in Matthew's own words, Charles Barkley is Earth's greatest warrior, and totally not someone who wrote his own script for a follow-up Nike commercial telling people not to look up to him and to tell your own kids to stop being stupid.
I am not a role model. I'm not paid to be a role model. Parents should be role models. Just because I dunk a basketball doesn't mean I should raise your kids.
That commercial was actually controversial back in its day, with a lot of people enraged that Barkley could say such a thing, which just blows my fucking mind. Let me say this loud and clear into my camera as someone whose audience has grown so large that even if I wanted a personal connection with all of you, it would be physically impossible. All of this is fake. Pure entertainment and nothing more. If you think the streamers, YouTubers, or influencers you watch care about you in any capacity beyond money, saying whatever it takes to make you like them and keep watching, and their own personal satisfaction, then you are a genuine fucking moron. To tangent off a bit in a way that will be very relevant soon, there's a hidden pattern amongst my work that longtime viewers may have noticed, and it's that I really like Charles Barkley for some fucking reason. I haven't really cared about basketball at all since about 7th grade, but this smiling motherfucker is the poster child of not one, but 2 of my videos, and he's honestly why I'm making this video at all, because in truth, I really don't give a shit about Godzilla. I think it may have stemmed from a combination of him being in Space Jam, being the poster child of the Space Jam remix community, and being the main character of the greatest JRPG of all time, Barkley's Shut Up and Jam Gaiden Chapter 1 of the Hoops Barkley saga. But while I respect Charles immensely for being the perfect mix of talented professional and professional goofy man, I don't care about his personal life in the slightest. And I know if I met him in person, there'd be nothing beyond the surface level politeness of me shaking his hand. And I don't expect there to be any further reciprocation when I gaze into his beautiful, loving eyes. And after seeing this ad and the story behind it, I respect him even more because not only did he double down on it despite receiving tons of backlash from the press and his fellow NBA players, but he pulled out this viciously accurate quote on the matter that I'm going to be thinking about for a long while because you can apply it to a lot these days. The first time I got hit really hard was for taking that stance. There were some columnists that defended me, but mostly I got killed. I'm okay with it though, because nobody in all this time has been able to convince me that it's wrong to tell kids to listen to their parents and not a basketball player they've never met. Well said. Now let's get back to that comic book where he battles a giant roaring crocodile the size of a skyscraper. Matthew watches as some Air Force jets fly overhead, lamenting how they're gonna do absolutely nothing when it comes to stopping Godzilla on his Screonk spree. Despite their attacks, they're hit with Godzilla's famous sash ray that obliterates them right out of the sky. We get a cameo appearance by a ramp so conveniently placed I begin to think Tony Hawk's gonna be the one to punch Godzilla in the gonads, and while Matthews sets up something spectacular, Charles's handlers just make me feel so goddamn weird. Gotta leave now, Mr. Barkley. There's a monster down the beach. You're due at the Optimists Club at noon. You've nothing to gain here. The first one's a pretty obvious jab at their intelligence, but that's just me reiterating the how the fuck does no one notice Godzilla yet point, so let's just slap on to the second one.
The Optimist Club, otherwise known as Optimist International, is a group designed to do charity work and just kind of hang out and stuff. There's a bunch of organizations like this you've probably heard of before. Elks Lodge, Kiwanis International, the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and perhaps most well-known of all, why the fuck is this woman obsessed with making sure Barkley ignores the giant rampaging behemoth nearby so he can go hang out with a group whose calendar this month only includes the Junior Golf Tournament of Champions and a Veterans Day entry that just ominously says artificial intelligence? Also, why does it seem like Agent Smith lost his sunglasses, grew a ponytail, and is trying to push Barkley further down into the Matrix? You've nothing to gain here is such an ominous line I'd assume that he has at least 2 handguns in that coat of his. But the comic gets good again as Matthew knows the only way to approach a busy basketball player is by launching himself off a skateboard ramp, doing a triple tucked front flip, and landing directly in his arms. Barkley, only 2 years ago having spat on a little girl during a professional NBA game, begins horking up the chunkiest loogie he can, but found that a 1080-degree rotation is so impressive that he'll decide to swallow it and hear the kid out. Oh, side note, by the way, some of you in the comments are going to mention that Barkley spitting on that little girl was an accident, and he was actually aiming for a man screaming racial slurs that was sitting behind the little girl, but sometimes you need to do what most other YouTubers do to get views. Omit details for the sake of comedy because doing research is hard.
We don't have time for this, Mr. Barkley.
We're due at the Optimist Club, Mr. Barkley.
What you want, kid?
You gotta stop Godzilla. Take this dollar.
There's a time and a place for this, Mr. Barkley. What the fuck is going on? Godzilla is attacking. I'm the only one with a brain. The bodyguard is telling everyone else to shuffle the fuck on, and yet he seems too distracted by his recent fat pectoral pump to accomplish anything of substance anyway. Optimist Club's biggest fangirl won't stop talking about him being on time for the Junior Golf Championship. Barkley is sitting down to powwow with a strange kid like this is the moment he tells him to stay in school and drink his milk. Matthew really thinks that screaming at Barkley to take $1 from his pocket is even a remotely good idea, and Hugo Weaving is just obsessed with making sure that Charles takes the blue pill. I don't have to stop that ugly monster, and I don't want your dollar. You want to give me $1? Buy a ticket to the game. Finally, Charles Barkley begins to act in character. Matthew reiterates his idea that Barkley is the greatest warrior on the planet, and Barkley takes that as a cue to fire his entire management team because he cares more about a nondescript male power fantasy than he does making millions of dollars and staying alive. This right here is my absolute favorite moment in anything I decide to make a video on ever. It's the moment that things shift from stupid to awesomely stupid. Now notice that I didn't use the phrase stupidly awesome because the primary emotion that I feel when I read this kind of stuff is still one of stupidity. But it's like this light switch flicks intensely in my brain when something crosses the line into what the fuck is this territory? Charles Barkley has effectively kidnapped a child, flooring the gas pedal of his Chevrolet Monte Carlo to bring him God knows where while some downright incredible dialogue happens. Okay, what makes you think I could stop Godzilla even if I wanted to?
It's an ancient legend my grandfather told me. All you need is the magic silver dollar, which I got right here.
Let me see that thing. An 1889 Morgan silver dollar in fine condition.
Maybe you gotta put it in your mouth or something.
You don't put strange money in your mouth. You don't know where it's been.
Wait, there's a hoop. Pull in there, Charles. I want to show you some moves.
Explain this page to someone. Do it. I fucking dare you. Do it. Explain to a friend of yours this comic book by telling them that it is a page where Charles Barkley kidnaps a child who's trying to force feed him rare coins that Barkley can immediately identify the make and year of while speeding around in his car, and it all gets interrupted because they spy a basketball hoop, and everyone knows the perfect time for a game of Horse or 21 is when God fucking Zilla is destroying the city. Barkley, while debating if a basketball-themed Batman and Robin could be a good idea, and if this moment is the perfect tipping point to give it a shot, is lectured by Matthew about how callous he is for not caring that Godzilla is currently using the Golden Gate Bridge as a hammock. Matthew flips for who gets ball first. The coin, not his body like he did earlier, and the magic silver dollar lands exactly on its side. That prompts Charles, once his signature Nikes have been featured good and proud in the panel, to give the coin a spin himself. And there must have been some magic in that old silver dollar he found, because Charles Barkley grows to be just as tall
ball as Godzilla. Thankfully, family-friendly dumb magic rules still apply because his ball and clothes grow alongside him. A news helicopter begins reporting on what's going on, mentioning there's miraculously been no loss of life, which I believe about as much as I believe the moon landing is real, which is 100%, because a comic like this is totally gonna weave whatever narrative it has to not align Charles Barkley with mass casualties. And then we learn that Japan is sending a special anti-Godzilla task force to America to put a stop to the beast, which is hilarious to me, because I imagine whenever this happens, the Japanese Prime Minister and Emperor hear of the news, and then they both look at each other and simultaneously yell, "Not again!" but in Japanese. The super cool Japanese anti-Godzilla task force never shows up, by the way, but you're free to show up to my gaming channel, Huggbees Gamer Mode, which is linked in the description. It's full of classic Let's Play style content that really makes me a hypocrite about my rant on parasocial content earlier, but I don't care. It's the thought that counts. So think about watching my second channel I'm trying to use to help fund some much bigger projects that I have in the works behind the scenes. And because I love you. Yes, you! Personally. Barkley shows up in a panel I think is utterly worthy of the Comic Book Hall of Fame, but it's almost cheating because this entire book belongs there too. But calling anything, let alone Godzilla, a sorry suitcase-looking sucker definitely gets my intrigue boner twitching. Charles, I'm Janet Planet with KQED News. What are you doing? I'm gonna try to lead the monster out of the city. How do you plan to do that? I'm gonna challenge him to some one-on-one. It's a little-known fact that Godzilla is a sucker for b-ball. Why does Barkley know this? It's a little-known fact that it's a little known fact Godzilla is a sucker for b-ball. What in the screonk are you talking about, Barkley? You know what? Fuck it. Do it. Do it, Barkley. Just fucking do it. I am 100% in your corner. I don't care anymore. I want to watch this man play basketball against a dinosaur dragon. Godzilla accepts Barkley's challenge by trying to smolder his skin off, and Barkley, a man where there's a little known fact about him that says he doesn't fear death, lures the beast to a nearby Air Force base. Barkley makes a basketball hoop out of a shuttle scaffold, while Matthew convinces his grandfather to punch it on the highway towards certain death. Godzilla starts with the ball. He gets some jukes in on Barkley. And then, the next few pages are, well, they're beautiful. Come on, man. Look at it. Just look at it, man. I might cry. Get on your knees and pray at the altar of Slam Jam because Barkley is beating Godzilla at basketball. And you and I are alive in a year when we get to see this happen. Life is good. And I will fucking kill you if you disagree with me. Because it's a little known fact that Godzilla is a sucker for b-ball, a sentence I'm gonna work into my wedding vows one day, his lizard-based peanut-sized brain puts together that he may actually just suck at basketball. So he melts the ball with his laser breath. Barkley's hand should be horrifically burned and welded into a disgusting amalgamation of regulation rubber and regular flesh, but instead, it's just time for a stern talking to. Barkley walks Godzilla off to Nike headquarters to get him some custom-made basketball shoes, which is actually foreshadowed in the alternate ending of that original commercial.
Have you ever thought about wearing shoes?
Barkley tells Zilla to do 1 million layups and that he'll be checking in on him, with the next time he'll be around being in about 100 years. And then Godzilla got busy. It's just unfair how funny the last half of this comic is. So many moments can be perfectly made to be passed around the internet for generations. In fact, this picture of Godzilla doing a layup has already become a bit of an internet icon, and you're welcome if this is how you found out that number one, the image isn't fan art, and number two, it's part of an even bigger, even more amazing whole comic book. There's a bit more left of this comic, so let's just run through it quickly. Charles is on a plane flying back into the city, acting like, oh yeah, whatever, I saved the fucking world with power magic and my ball handling skills, it's no big deal, who cares? And then he shows up to give Matthew back his silver dollar, and that's the end. Now, presumably, Barkley's entire basketball career from this moment on meant absolutely nothing, even though he played for 7 more years after this, because each and every post-game interview from this point forward consisted of just one question. Hey, yeah, great, good game, Barkley, but you remember that time you grew to be 300 feet tall and schooled Godzilla? And that's the end. So what did we learn? Nothing. Not a goddamn thing. Here's a little sneaky post-credits scene for all of you who stuck around to the end. While researching this video, my Google search suggestions just got completely and utterly fucked up. So now every time I look up Godzilla, I get recommended the question, who dunked on Godzilla? And I wouldn't have it any other way.